I overshot that a little bit. Good evening, my beautiful crime family, and to everybody out there. This is Once Upon a Crime Time, and I'm your host, Tommy Jude. What a crazy little week we've had, huh? Everybody's had a crazy week. I go to other channels, and it's just like, I think, I really think this case is like getting to everybody. And I can't wait for the trial to begin. I really cannot. If that's what even happens. I do have to tell you a really weird, strange story that it's very fitting for this week, all right, or in the past week. And it came to the conclusion last night. I was got in touch with somebody, had me connected me and this lawyer up, and this has nothing to do with Spence or anything like that. This is a total different. This was a lawyer out of Ohio, okay, and he said that he's got receipts, which he would not supply to me. But wait until you hear. Okay. People call us conspiracy theorists. Okay. This is about the wildest one I've ever heard. Okay. And I'm not stating we're with this at all, folks. Okay. This came from this allegedly lawyer who said he has receipts that, get ready for this now. Get ready for this. And I thought my cougars were bad. That the kids, the four, were not unalived. That they're missing. And he says he has receipts to back that up. Just to let you know, it ended with me saying pretty much to the effect, you're fucking wacko. And I left the conversation. Oh, man. I tell you what. I thought I was cookie. And he had me bite for a couple of minutes. He had me bite because I started thinking, well, you know what? We never did see anybody unload anybody from that house. So it got me. And then it was like, wake up, Jude, wake up. Oh, but that just goes to show you the craziness that's out there right now. So I thought I'd share that anyway. And I got to say my highs. Hello, Bianca, Kat K, Lulu Chu, Lucy's mom. Kluminati, good to see you, girl. Say hi to the old fiance for me too. And hey, I'm gonna have an open panel after I run the video too. By the way, and Pebbles, my girl, my sweet girl. My mods, I have to say thank you so much because I know what you've been through in the last few days. And if everybody just stops to think what they've been through, it's been pretty much hell. So, yeah. Cryptic Conversations, Teresa, Michelle. Oh, hey, I know some Camerons. Yeah, I sure do. Love Tina, Strange Suspicion. That last video I watched, that one I watched twice. It was so good. I really liked it. And Rach, my girl, love you, man. And Rowena, Deborah, Marina girl, Hope, my girl, Natural Healing, my girl, Miss Ma'am, thank you so much. I seen what you said, and thank you so much for backing us here at Once Upon a Crime Time, Miss Ma'am. And Tressa, okay, I got to go up now. Wendy, where did I leave off here? Bob Mackey. Yep, I know smoking kills, and that will be what kills me. I've already accepted that fact. Moonflower Lassa. Love to you, girl. Okay, well, and hi to everyone. Jeff H, brother, how you doing, man? Not on, let me see, was it on that song? No, not on that song, but on a different song that was produced by the same guy, Frank Greiner, Rob Zombie's producer. Not that song. If you know that one part of Rory's intro, it would be that song. Yeah, I was the lead guitar on that one. Julianne, Carrie T. Cold or covered? Oh boy, it's cold. Yes, when I went out to the store when the sun was still up, it was 2 degrees, people. So yeah, Minnesota weather is back. Terry, good to see Terry Martin, good to see you. And everybody out there, thank you very much for coming in. We're going to be looking at a few things today. I think I'll start it out though with another strange one, but this has to do with Idaho 4. And then I want to, it wasn't just that part of the family was attacked and myself, but it was also the law firm. And I will get into who they really are. And why they advertise the way they do. But I'll get to that later. But actually, I want to show you something I got in the mail here. Check this stuff out. Check this out. Okay, Moscow, Idaho. Look at this. Question for DoorDash users. Has anyone else had a weird scrapbook type poster taped onto your door? Check this out, folks. This was taped onto a DoorDash driver's door. Now tell me that isn't just a little bit strange. And I'll show you the conversations to this. Okay, so Kiss My Cactus says more info about the poster. I took a closer look at the papers, and there were some with the magazine's info on them. It looks a lot like the bits are from Vogue's September 2022 edition. Talking about art. Not all of the papers have the magazine info on it, so I can only assume it's all from that specific edition. And then Beeb says, yikes, that's pretty creepy. I use DoorDash, but have never seen anything like this. As someone else suggested, Maybe bring it to the police just in case it becomes a stalker thing or something. Not to scare you, sorry. Then kiss my cactus. No worries. I already thought of everything, every possible scenario, laughing out loud. And I do believe my SO talked to the police about it last night. Okay. I'm hoping these are all in order, folks. I emailed these to myself here just a little while ago because I got them through Messenger. Okay, so then alternative false 600 says, no, it's okay. I was just wondering. I've gone through some Google images looking to see if I could find any artists locally that did fashion collages like this. I found nothing. Make sure your doors are locked at night. It's probably nothing, but it's unsettling. Then kiss my cactus. Thank you for checking to see if it was a local artist. I didn't even think of that because none of it felt intentional in an artistic kind of way. And worries about doors being locked. Our front is always locked and the balcony door is locked, second floor as well. And not 100% sure that was the dasher. Obviously, see, it came from the DoorDash driver. It sounds like, right? Is that what it sounds like? Not 100% sure that was the dasher, obviously, but the poster wasn't there earlier today. Poster is in quotations because it's just a piece of paper from an art notebook with photos from magazine glued to it. Now, I mean, if you remember like the old TV shows and stuff, you know, they would send those letters to the police, you know, and they'd have like cutout letters, and that's what it sounds like to me. You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of a freaky thing. Anyway, there's some bits with the words, but nothing of note about those that I can tell. This has me really creeped out, honestly. And Silly Billy here says, I've never had this happen. Kind of weird whether it's DD related or not. And kiss my cactus. Right. Like I grew up here in Moscow, and I've never heard of anything even remotely similar to this happening. Just really creepy. And then Pippi Long Freckles. Call the police. That's weird. Kiss my cactus. I do believe my SO talked to the police about it last night. And okay, wait, okay, so down here. I do believe my SO talked to the police about it last night, and yeah, really spooked me last night. If I'm honest, it had to have been there at least 2-ish hours, and that just isn't very comforting. I'll make sure to update if anything come of it. Must be obviously or something. Then alternative false. It seems to have a leather theme to it. 2 brown leather jackets, 1 black. The shoes, and I can't make out any of the print. I know you said it didn't seem scary or anything, but what is it about? With all the leather, can it just be a vegan thing? Or could this be some weirdo who likes skinning things? Laughing out loud. I'm sorry, my brain's going. Oh my God. What was this person thinking? Why did they make this? And why did they leave it where they left it? And most importantly, was it made specifically for you? The more I think about it, yeah, you should probably call LE. On it, I do believe my soul talked to. Okay, I may be wrong, but I would not worry. I had a weird thing happen in 2022 like this, and nothing came of it. I don't know if I wouldn't worry about it, especially if I was a woman. I mean, a girl, like living alone or something, When in 22, can you remember what month? August or early September. Why? It wasn't exactly the same, just similar. I was just curious. It is interesting, though, that you're saying August or September 22 because the background used on this art collage is from Vogue September 22. It was not a magazine, though. And that's the gist of it right there. But isn't that weird? Isn't that a weird thing? I mean, most of the time when they like post or like glue things onto and paste things onto a paper like that and pictures and then go leave it on your door, that's such a strange place to me. I don't know, man. There's just too many weird things about that town. I'm telling you. It is a weird thing, Jane. Yes, I believe so too. Hi, Brandy Wine and True Crime. Good to see you. Oh, Bubbly, my girl. There you are. Sweet Pilo, that's who I was trying to tell you about the other night when I couldn't think and I was saying pedo or whatever when we were talking at about 4 a.m. That's who I was talking about when we were talking about that certain dark subject. That's who I was talking about. Message, in my opinion, that could be Illuminati, no doubt. It could be like a message to, and strange, just very, very strange. Okay, so I'm going to just jump to this this video because I do want to open up chat line, open up some chat. So okay, everybody knows what happened in the last week here and everything, and I do have to say, I won't be going in there anytime soon because I don't even want to listen to The Voice. But I have forgiven, and I know Cynthia's heart, and I know she has forgiven too. But there is something that I do want to clear up, and that's about. And since it's already out there, the Spence law firm. It is not an ambulance chasing law firm. I remember this law firm from the 80s, people. I remember Jerry Spence from the 80s when he took on Randy Webster's case. And that was like the early 80s or whatever it was. They've been known to handle, and this is why they would be interested in this case, because they are interested in human rights, civil rights. And this case reeks of that. Now, they wanted me to they contacted me to send them information. So nobody can tell me they weren't and aren't interested. The thing is, if you just would have just listened, we can't be involved. We are what are called concerned citizens, but we are not a representative of Mr. Bryan. And we are not family of Mr. Bryan. And there is legalities to this. And we expected and knew that letter was coming because they told us. Okay? So, anyway, I want you to get to know who they really are, because justice wasn't served on the little videos that was shown. And of course, they don't advertise. Let's say that you had a law firm in Wyoming, people. Would you have an advertisement for like accidents and stuff like that? Or would you rather have this big ad saying, we take on murder cases in Wyoming? Do you get my point? There's not many murder cases in Wyoming, okay? But they do murder cases throughout the country. But they are famous for civil rights and human rights. So, anyway, without further ado, yeah. Now this is going to show you. Now, here's another thing. Jerry puts on the school that lawyers from all over the United States come to his ranch and learn things. This is the kind of man he is. And I want you to get to know this man. This is from 10 years ago. So he was 85 years old. And this is by a PBS station out of Wyoming, I do believe. So I want you to get to know who this firm is, because, and who Jerry is, because he's an awesome person and lawyer. So without further ado,
Art, Life, and the Law, the Jerry Spence interview, part 1, next on Wyoming Chronicle. Hello, I'm Richard Ager. Welcome to Wyoming Chronicle and part 1 of our interview with Jerry Spence. He's known as the lawyer who never lost a criminal case. His high-profile clients include Randy Weaver of Ruby Ridge, Imelda Marcos, and Karen Silkwood's family. Time magazine called him the fastest gun in the West. Born and raised in Laramie with a law degree from UW, Jerry Spence has always made Wyoming his home, but his work and his legacy is for the nation. Jerry Spence began his public life in 1954, running for Fremont County Attorney. It had its risks, including an attempt on his life, but Spence carried on, prosecuting those who broke the law. Spence was on his way, moving his law office to bigger digs. His only loss? In a race to be Wyoming's congressman. But in the midst of success, he left it all behind. He put everything up for sale and moved to San Francisco to study painting. San Francisco didn't last, though Spence still paints. Most important, following his artistic impulse led him to greater achievements in the law and a new focus on defending the little guy. It is a life lesson he imparts to classes at the Trial Lawyers College he founded in Du Bois in 1994.
So today, what are we going to do? We are going to paint. What do you know? What does that have to do with being a trial lawyer? Every presentation that you make to the jury has its counterpart in a painting. It has a beginning and it has an end. It has content.
Now, remember, these people here are lawyers.
It has contrast. It has form. It has beauty. That's what your presentation to the jury contains. It contains you. So there's plenty of paint and there's plenty of paper. Go do it.
I feel very inadequate right now.
I've been practicing 30 years, so I have a lot of things I have to learn to undo before I can start on a new palette.
Like what?
Just to be more real. I get so passionate about my clients that sometimes I want to take somebody's head off on cross-exam, so I'm trying to learn how to love the other side.
Painting for the first time since childhood is just one step in breaking down internal barriers.
Shady Ray Foreman.
The first 3 days of the 3-week course are spent in psychodrama.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Daddy. To be a good trial lawyer, you should be able to reverse roles with your client. In other words, this isn't not a new concept, but it's to walk in another person's shoes.
You know, when you do the psychodrama, when you get up and sing, when you interact with people you don't know, these are all my brothers and sisters. I feel, I feel very close to them. So I don't know. It's tough to describe what Jerry's bringing out in me, but I like it. From where I was at, I feel like I've come a long way.
They don't just start with doing lawyering techniques. They're actually asked to look at themselves and their own methods that keep them away from understanding people.
And what better place for self-examination than at Thunderhead Ranch in the mountains east of Du Bois? When participants come to the Trial Lawyers College, they leave the outside world behind, literally. There's no TV, no internet, and if you really must place a cell phone call, your only choice is to come climb Cell Phone Hill. There is plenty of instruction on the art of opening statements, cross-examinations, and closing arguments, but here it all starts with a focus on the person before the law, as in this hypothetical injury case.
And I want justice for you, Kelly. And I want you to use your power, not only to give it to her, but to give it to every other honest woman and every other honest man who comes into a court and stands before her peers or his peers and tells you the truth and asks you for justice. Thank you.
Was in the spring, spring became the summer. Who'd have believed you'd come along?
I think when you just be real with the jury, and I think if you just be yourself and you grounded and you show them a little bit of yourself, and maybe they'll show you a little bit of themselves.
So after leading a rousing chorus of Sweet Caroline and painting a couple of paintings, what difference do you feel?
I feel a little bit, a little freer and a little bit lighter, and I don't need to take myself as seriously as I think we all take ourselves far too often.
Sweet Caroline. Time has never seemed so good.
What was it about that pursuit that made you dedicate?
Well, what could a poor Wyoming boy do who was fairly vocal, and but he didn't want to be a preacher? I mean, who used their speaking talents if they had whatever they had in that regard? How would you use them? Would you? I didn't want to be a preacher. I didn't want to be a teacher. And I never knew a lawyer. And I'd read some stories about great lawyers and thought that maybe that would be really fun to be a lawyer. So that's what happened.
You know, I was wondering, you know, when you started out as a young lawyer, whether you regarded it as a job or as a life.
Well, it was an opportunity to feed my face and the face of my wife and the face of my children. I had one child and was another one on the way. So it was a means by which to make a living.
At one point, actually, you decided to ditch the law and take up painting. What led to that, and how did that work out?
Well, the law, as I saw it at that time, was broken, and as I see it today, I still see that the justice system of this country is severely broken and does not offer anything except a promise, an empty promise to people of liberty and justice for all. It is not there. People can't get justice in this country. People believe that they can get justice until they need it, and then they can't get it. And I was about 38 years old. I had been in the law since I was 24 years old. I had accomplished about everything I could accomplish in the state of Wyoming. I had every verdict record in the state. I had the largest verdicts that people had ever heard of in this state. I'd never lost a criminal trial. And yet I was not providing justice. I couldn't provide justice. The system was wrong. And so what I thought to myself, what can I do with my life that would help this? And I thought, you know, maybe.
What you're going to see about Jerry is that he is very down to earth, and he is very truthful to himself and others. And he has a very huge heart for people. And us as a society needs to refine that. This country needs to refine our hearts. I strongly feel that we've kind of lost our way in the last 8 to 10 years, and it's time to, sometimes in life, you have to step back and do some self-analyzation and come to realizations. And sometimes it's hard to look in that mirror. I've had to do it in my life a few times. And sometimes what you see in that mirror is a very scary thing. And Jerry, you can tell, is a very intelligent, not just a very intelligent man, but a very heartfelt man. Carry on, Jude.
Maybe I am a painter. I began painting in my first marriage in the misery of my life. And I would paint out my misery, and I'll paint out my imaginations and my senses and my feelings, and the paintings were stacking up, and I got a great deal of pleasure from that. and relief. And I thought maybe I should become a painter because I could teach people a lot about living through painting. Painting is nothing but a metaphor of life.
You've written about an incident that changed your life after your years as a corporate lawyer for insurance companies. Can you describe that day?
Well, this corporate gunslinger was defending an insurance company on behalf of a drunken woman who ran into an old man who was about ready to retire. He'd worked all of his life at a refinery in Casper. Can you imagine what it would be to spend your whole life working in a refinery, hoping that someday you could retire? And he was just retired and was going to spend his time with something that he'd wanted to do all of his life, and that was to be with his grandchildren and to go out and do other things and to hike and to go fishing and all of these things. And he was injured by this woman that would never recover. And I took him on. They put him on the stand, and I took him on. And when I was finished with my cross-examination, he didn't look good to the jury. And the jury didn't give him anything. And Imogene, with whom I was having an affair, saw this going on, and she walked out of the courtroom, a little old family.
This is how honest this guy is. You know, he says her name and then who I was having an affair. The guy, you know, he just opens up and is truthful and truthful to himself. You know what I mean? He's truthful to himself. And that's what we need to be, is truthful to ourselves and truthful to others too. But I mean, how can you be truthful to others if you can't even be truthful to yourself? That's my point.
And he just going out of that courtroom just like this, you know. And I stopped the cross-examination in the middle of that cross-examination and ran out after her. This is how arrogant and how much I believe.
Did the judge have anything to
Oh
say
no,
about that?
I owned this whole world as far as I was concerned. And I said, "What's the matter? Where are you going?" And she said, "That's disgusting, what you did to that old man." So later on, we're at she and I are at Safeway buying some kind of goodies for a celebration. And in front of me is this old man. And he's hobbling along, and he turns around and I see who he is. And I say, "Oh, well, hello, sir." I said, I'm sorry what happened today in your case. He said, "Oh, that's all right, Mr. Spence." He said, "You were just doing your job." And I thought, is that my job? To cheat old men out of justice? So that night I'm with Imogene, and I said to Imogene, is that my job? And she didn't answer. Now these women, you know sometimes how powerful something, by the way, that lawyers need to learn in a courtroom.
Yes.
In any event, I thought about it all night. And the next morning I got up and I told my partner, Bob Rose, who later became the chief of the Wyoming Supreme Court, Chief Justice of the Wyoming Supreme Court, I said, Bob, we're not going to represent any more companies. I sent out letters to 40 insurance companies, and we've never looked back. It changed our lives.
You know, in the years since, of course, you have had quite a number of very high-profile cases. One that, of course, became famous not only from the case that you argued, but the movie that followed was the victory, or the case that you argued against Kerr McGee in the case of Karen Silkwood. How would you describe the sort of lasting effect of that case?
Well, I believe that we learned that corporate America would lie. The case developed that the proof of that. Maybe they would even kill to make money. We know that they will let people starve. We know that they will cheat old people and young people and helpless people and take their money and claim to be great businessmen. But would they lie? Will they murder to keep the privilege of making money? That's the question that was raised in the Silkwood case. And the jury answered that question with a huge verdict.
Another case not involving corporations, but in this case, the government, of course, was the Ruby Ridge case involving Randy Weaver. Many might say not an attractive client. He was a white supremacist. What made you decide to get involved in that case?
Well, I really didn't have any choice. The government had killed, the government with its unlimited power had decided that they were going to take Randy Weaver in and prosecute him, and I think wrongfully, for a crime that they caused. They set it up. They set him up to saw off a gun, and an undercover agent did. And then when he did it because he needed the money to buy some school clothes for their kids, they prosecuted him. And then they wanted him to flip and to become a snitch for them and go after others. And he said, I won't do that. And the government then decided they were going to bring him in. And Randy said, you're not going to bring me in. In effect, that's what it was.
Your involvement in that, in the sense I get, and you've talked a lot about how you become involved as a person in your cases. You must have had strong feelings about that case to take it.
Oh, absolutely. It was just a horrible, and as a matter of fact, the government later paid $3 million to those folks and they had a big hearing, a congressional hearing, and the FBI had an investigation of itself, and all the stuff that government does that goes nowhere. They finally paid the family $3 million. But but I have to say something here. I've been involved in the trial of cases against governments in defending people, little people, and even occasionally big people. And I have.
Did you catch that? Did you catch that? And this is one of the reasons why they aren't interested in this case. Let me back this up a little bit here.
Government later paid $3 million to those folks and they had a big hearing, a congressional hearing, and the FBI had an investigation of itself, and all the stuff that government does that goes nowhere. They find
that goes nowhere. Think about this case and all the investigation with the FBI, and the Elliott, everything, and goes nowhere. Carry on, Jude.
They paid the family $3 million. But that's, but I have to say something here. I've been involved in the trial of cases against governments in defending people, little people, and even occasionally big people. And I have never, hear me, I have never once been in a single case over a period of 60 years in the courtrooms of this country that the government hasn't violated the law or misused its power. Never one case, not one. And they brag about a 98% conviction rate, and you can imagine why. They have this huge power, and they use it against little people.
You know, at the time you said this is a murder case, but the people who committed the murder are not in court.
Absolutely. Totally.
You've represented a lot of well-known people, Imelda Marcos for one. You even represented a Miss Wyoming in a suit against Penthouse magazine. But I'm curious, what case in all of these years sort of sticks in your mind the most? What do you think is the most memorable?
You know, in a way, your question is like, I have that question put to me often, and I stop to think about it like that often. But these cases they're like your children. And they have an importance of their own in you.
And that I understand very, very well. Being a musician, and I've written, over 700 songs, and they're my children. They are. My songs are my children. Just like this man's cases are his children. So I really can relate to what he's talking about in my own experiences. Carry on, Jude.
And when it's over, that case is done and the next child is born. And you would almost say, like any father, the case that stands out most clearly in my mind after all these years is my last one. So I really can't answer that question.
Actually, that's a good answer, I think. There was a difficult time that you have talked about because you do oppose capital punishment, but in one case, back in 1978, you actually acted as a special prosecutor, or as the prosecutor in a capital case. But when the defendant was convicted and, of course, later executed, you changed your mind. And I'm wondering what sort of evolution you went through at that point.
I never really changed my mind about capital punishment. I've always been against capital punishment, even when I was a young prosecutor.
Bam! Bam! He does not believe in capital punishment. Now, you're looking at a man that today, 10 years later, is 95 years old. But do you realize, and this was not stated when somebody ran the 2 videos that he found to match his thing, that, oh God, where did I go? I pulled the Dago. Dago, I'm sorry. Let me listen to that one more time here. Fucking age is not fun, people.
When the defendant was convicted and, of course, later executed, you changed your mind. And I'm wondering what sort of evolution you went through at that point.
I never really changed my mind about capital punishment. I've always been against capital punishment, even when I was...
That's what I'm talking about, right?
Even when I was a young prosecutor.
He's against, and now you know the reasons why this firm is involved. that wants, or I should say, they're not involved, but has an interest in this case because they believe that maybe there is some human rights, civil rights, and then you have the death penalty. Then you have them based out of Wyoming, which is right next door.
In those days, in the early days, if somebody was charged with murder, and convicted of first-degree murder, the sentence was death, period. And you then had to go to the court and ask the court for leniency, or to the jury for leniency in certain cases. But in the Hopkinson case, which is the one you're talking about, I was faced with a dilemma, a conflict that one faces, that tests one, tests who you are. And we don't always pass those tests to ourselves even. And Hopkinson had murdered one of my good friends, Vince Vihar. And he'd murdered he paid a kid to blow him up, blow up the house. My kid went out and got some beaver dams dynamite that his father had, and they threw it into the house where Vince was living in Evanston, Wyoming, blew him and his wife and his 15-year-old, killed 3 people, and injured a third, who's now a lawyer in Wyoming, good lawyer. And Hopkinson was arrogant about it. So I took the case and I prosecuted Hopkinson. And I made the argument that I said to the jury, I am against capital punishment. But we have a right to defend ourselves.
Well, Mark Hopkinson, of course, was executed in 1992. That was our last execution, the first in 26 years. And I'm wondering about your feelings about the case today. I mean, you had obviously strong feelings when you took the case in 1978. I'm wondering if anything has changed.
Nothing's changed with respect to my feeling about capital punishment. I tried to save Hopkinson's life. He used to send me letters and say he was going to have me skinned alive, and have my wife skinned alive. And that he would say and send to me. He was quite a good-looking young man and very charismatic, but he was an evil guy. And I've never changed my view. If I would have been perfectly willing to, and would have been happy to have him spend his life in prison in Wyoming.
One of the things, of course, you're most famous for is your winning streak. When's the last time you lost a case?
I've never lost a criminal case as a prosecutor or as a defense attorney, and the last case that I lost, I think, was in 1969, a civil case.
You were asked at one point what would happen if you lost a case, and you said, well, it wouldn't make me less of a lawyer, but the pain would be, and this is a quote, so overwhelming, I would die just as surely as if a sword was put through me. Did you mean that?
Yes, of course. Because the pain comes from when you see your client that you love and you've learned to love, and you can't. It's a process that of an exchange between yourself and this person that's charged with this crime, and you understand this person, you've lived with this person, you understand where they came from, you absorb their background, you care about them, and you see the sheriff put the chains on him and haul him out of the courtroom, and you think to yourself, it's my fault. If I had done something just a little better, if in the heat of the cross-examination I hadn't have been so angry, if along the way in the final argument I hadn't have forgotten to say whatever it was that I forgot to say. And it's my fault, because if I had done my job correctly, he would be free.
There. Now, I hope that explains to you a little better about what this firm is about and what Jerry is about. And I hope I've explained a little better what is going on, even though I was told, and we were told not to go where it went, not because of me in a way, because I accidentally didn't redact. And I feel so stupid because I thought I went through that whole letter, but I missed that one. But yeah, he's a very, very heartfelt man, and a very intelligent man. And when you don't ever lose a case in 60 years of law, that's really saying something. We do have some people in here, though, like Cluminati and Sarge is in here, and I see Swamp Rose is in here, and Strange Suspicion. I think we should get them all up here. What do you guys think? I'm gonna leave a link. Oh, I got to pull up my page though. Did it copy? Okay, I hope so. Yeah. Just give me a second here to pull up the old page. When you have so many different things going on, so many pages up, it takes a little while to load. Then the chat, of course, takes a while to load on its own. Yeah, so I wonder what the temp is here now. There we are. Okay. I'm there. I'm just old and I'm slow. Really good to see you, Sarge. It's been a while, buddy. There's a link for you guys. I would love it if all of you could come up, Sarge and Cluminati and Swamp Rose, and I think Michelle is here. I think. What was the other one? There's another one I'm missing here. I'm sorry I missed you here. There's another one. My mind isn't thinking right here. Who is it? Who is it, people? Oh, Strange Suspicion. Yes. Strange, you don't have to worry about if you don't have your makeup on and stuff. You don't have to show your face. You can choose not to. Let me see. Is there somebody back here? Oh, yeah. The Sarge is here. And Cluminati's here. There is the Sarge, and there is the Illuminati. Hey, you guys, how you doing, man?
What's going on, Tommy Two-Tone?
No, not much, Sarge. Man, been a while. I seen you on Illuminati's page a couple times, I think it was.
Hey, Cletus is always harassing me, so I got to go up there and stress myself out.
I love Cleese. He cracks me up, man. I'm back there just cracking up, man.
The Thumpelin cheerleader is also very stressful. Their take on Hamburg is just killing me.
Hi, Illuminati. How you doing, girl? Talk once. Let's see if your mic is okay.
Me?
Yeah. Oh, there. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I thought it sounded funny there for a second, but
is it working?
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Good. Yeah. Sarge, you can suck
ma'am.
my Hamburg in a tube.
Tube burger.
You better be careful. He might take you up on it.
You never know. You never know. So what the hell does a condom and a woman have in common?
Oh my God! Here we go.
They both spend more time in your wallet than on your dick.
Oh my God! You got the wrong woman.
Right?
Oh man!
Oh, you're cooking again, Sarge. Oh, wow. We need to get a hold of Rory and see what's going on with him.
Yeah, he's in hiding for some reason, man.
Well, he's all in goo goo gaga, you know.
He's pee-whipped.
I know what she looks like. And I guess I'd probably disappear too. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, I've never been with an unattractive woman. They're usually pretty good looking.
Well,
I go for the gold diggers, and I let them dig till they find the copper.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! You know, we've never had strange suspicion. You should come up here. You're trying to promote your new channel. You've only been on there for 3 months, and man, that last video. Did you watch that last video of hers? Have you guys been to her page?
What page?
Strange suspicion.
I haven't.
No.
It's good. She's pretty good at it. I like it. I like it a lot. People get down on her because she dresses like a clown and stuff, but she actually got a hold of what's his name there, and asked if you know, make sure that he wouldn't be offended.
Strange suspicion. Don't worry about what people say. If you don't want to give up your identity, that's your business. I'm assuming that's why you do that. And
exactly.
Right now, with the turmoil in this true crime community, that you don't see my face on TV.
There is no turmoil.
Right.
What turmoil?
So they're stuck with my ugly face.
I'm talking about like people trying to attack creators.
In here.
And they just use all they have to go on is what they look like. It's so stupid. Judge a book by its cover, then more.
I think you know how the government can put out those alerts. You know how the government can like text alerts for like national emergencies.
Right.
You know how they can do it, right? They put that system in where it goes to everybody's cell phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. I'm waiting for a grandfather clock alert to come across the nation because apparently those things are causing life-threatening injuries with no warning whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. Not just the grandfather clock, just to wake me up in the morning would be good.
You just don't want them landing on you. Apparently, they've been jumping around landing on old ladies. I don't know why, but that's the problem.
So, Illuminati, what did you think of Mr. Spence?
I freaking adore him. And there was somebody in here, I don't know if they were a troll or someone, but they're like, art has nothing to do with law. I'm sorry, lady, whoever you are, man, whatever.
Right.
I disagree. Your job, especially as a defense attorney, you are literally, quote unquote, painting a picture for the jury. And you're also of victims who don't have one anymore. You have to paint a picture of their lives. So what better way to do that than to be in touch with your artistic self.
Yeah, and
Right.
if everybody treated what
Right.
they did on a daily basis as an art form, what a wonderful world we'd live in.
Exactly,
Amen.
Sarge.
Right.
Amen. Fuck yeah, amen.
You know, even the guy
Yes.
that paves the road or picks up your garbage. You know, an art form, and doing anything you do can be an art form. So
Exactly.
you know,
Right.
when you apply that to a professional career like law, that's awesome.
If more people did that, I mean, even if you were flipping burgers at a McDonald's, you know,
Right.
putting that burger together and making it art.
Burn
You
a
know what I'm
smiley
saying?
face. Yeah, burn a smiley face in every burger you make.
Right.
There's
Right.
a lot of creative things you
Exactly.
could do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
changing the world, that starts with us, you know.
not to mention, like, there could be somebody having a terrible day, just nothing has gone right. They go through the drive-through, you make their burger, you don't screw it up, and it literally comes out looking like a piece of art. You just made their shitty day better.
Did you say Dago through the drive-through? Why'd you bring him up?
You know what?
I'm
No,
just asking.
she's not tire brand specific. She don't care what kind of tires she has.
Oh man, is Dago live right now? Actually, I wish he was around too. Be nice to get everybody up here.
He was live earlier. We were in his.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I had so much running around to do. I mean, I hadn't slept for 2 nights because of all this shit just was getting to me, and then so I slept until 3:30.
I pulled a play out of Sarge's book today. I took a nap for once. First time, and I don't
Did
know
you?
how. Yeah, I took about a 20-minute nap.
The old man is creeping into you.
I'm telling
I've been napping for 30 years.
Tell him your opinion of old Jerry.
I like Jerry. That you had told us before to check him out, and we hadn't had a chance to do it, or hadn't taken it. I hadn't taken a chance to do it, and it was a good video. And you know, I mean,
right.
I don't know anything other than that video about him, but assuming he's genuine, I think he's great, and I think what he stands for is great. You know, I think he and I've got a difference of opinion on some things, but just in general, he comes across as a very genuine, very, like you said, honest with himself type of person, and he kind of represents a lot of what has been lost or what is getting lost in the country, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Honesty.
I agree. Honesty, yes.
All the time. One thing that would fix the world if we were all honest, and it starts with being honest with yourself. Period.
Exactly. And I had stated that earlier in the video that I stopped it, and that's what we have to do. Is sometimes you have to look in that mirror. What you see back sometimes is pretty ugly. You know what I'm saying? And I've had to do that a few times in my life. And
you make decisions that affect everybody around you, your coworkers, whatever. And so make sure you do the right thing and be honest. That's all.
Well, and I think what he said about. I think what he said about, you know, we all take ourselves too seriously at times, right? And I think that's another big issue, right? And it goes along with being honest with yourself. If you realize no matter what role you're in or what level of control you have over things, you're just another person that puts their pants on one leg at a time, unless you're, you know, an acrobat or something. So, I mean,
you know, even crucially for people that recover from addictions, doing it only for yourself, because you're your biggest critic. That's why you're a fucking addict.
Yep.
And so when you do it for yourself, to meet the standards for yourself, right? There's no better way to stay without, you know, to break free of the addiction. But it has to come, you have to do it for you and you only.
Right.
Not someone outside of yourself, not your kids, not anything.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and it starts with being honest. If you broke down all those 12-step programs, the part they're trying to get into your brain is to be honest in all things, even if it causes you grief or consternation or money.
No, boy, I've been there so many times. And my addiction, and I had to look in the mirror, you know, and everybody knows why I got addicted. I've explained, you know, what my life at that time. And, but I had a really, a dream that made me, and it was such a spiritual type dream, and it was my dad, and he came to me in this dream, and this is when I was up to 30-35 pills a day, and just wanting to die pretty much, and he came to me in that dream, and he only said this is all he said: get off the shit. And the disgusting look he had in his face made me look in that mirror. And what I seen back is I seen something really, really ugly. And I kicked the shit, man. I got off. One of the hardest things I ever had to do. Sometimes that mirror is ugly.
Well, someone said in there I said something deep, and I just want to point out I'm just not another handsome face. I do have a brain.
Oh. You're not talking about that picture that's on there now, are you?
Oh, yeah. That's my mafia picture right there.
You look like Miss Farina as well as sounding like it.
That's without any product or hair coloring.
I'm just saying, speaking of taking yourself too seriously, Sarge.
I was replying to someone in the chat room, just so you know, the humor was intended for a chat room reply by Pebbles.
My offer still stands. I will shine your head for a nickel.
I'm not bald in that picture.
You know something?
Do I look bald in that picture?
You're a nickel?
Yeah.
No, I'm not bald.
You know something about what Jerry was talking about. He said what was it? I forget the percentage. Well, he said all the cases that he had been a trial lawyer in. Not one had the government not exceeded their control or broken the law themselves or whatever. And I think that's real interesting, that especially in terms of everybody's concerns about the Idaho 4 thing, because it's like, even if there's not a way for him to, let's say he could never get hooked up with Koberger, right, to ensure he gets a fair trial. I wonder what the possibility and what the method would be to get a third party almost audit of the prosecution's case to ensure there was no wrongdoing in anything that they did before it goes to trial.
There should be. There should be. Don't you think that would be a good idea, Sarge? Or maybe there is. Is there such a organization that
what I would do if I were Ann?
mean?
If I were Ann, what I would do is I would request subpoenas for every genetic website that does not allow law enforcement in it. And I would ask for a subpoena, and that subpoena to identify if the Koberger family during that period of time was hit, and there were any hits or interest in those Kobergers, the family tree. So let's say it's 1, 2, 3 and me that doesn't allow FBI or police access without warrants. I would be subpoenaing the records of those sites to ensure that the FBI and the genealogical work they did not cut across the constitutional limit.
Well, one of them just came out and said that they had a breach by law enforcement.
Yeah, 23. Yeah. Well, I'm not looking for a data breach. What I'm looking for was their system interrogated for anything related to Koberger?
But that's what I'm talking about.
If it were, then well, go ahead.
That's what I mean. They sent a notification out. I'll have to find it. But they sent a notification out saying that they had just been made aware that law enforcement had accessed their database without their permission.
Right. And they do it through third-party genealogists. See, that's what that woman on the stand told us, and that's probably why the FBI went to her house. The genealogical work is supposed to be secret,
that's what I was thinking, Sarge.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
So if I was Brian Koberger's attorney, I would approach the judge and say that if you're not going to release all the genealogical information, and if the FBI, if it's okay by you that they threw it all away, then I need subpoenas for these particular sites that store genealogical data that's protected by opt-in or completely protected by you can't look law enforcement without a warrant. And I want to know if those sites were hit.
And was did LE or the FBI or whoever
Anybody
that hands it over, right? That hands it over to these places. Did they mention the name Brian Kohlberger? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would want to. What I would do is I would just request subpoenas from those sites to see if, say, a private genealogist that works on behalf of the FBI goes in through a back door, and they start building a tree of Kohlberger off of 23andMe. I said 123andMe, my mistake. But any other website that's public like that has user agreements that protect your DNA data, I would look to see if any of the information on the tree that
there needs to be
built came from them.
laws. There needs to be rules for these places.
There is.
Yeah, but there are rules, but there's very few checks and balances, right?
Yeah, there needs
correct.
That's what I'm saying. Hi, by the way, hi Michelle. Welcome aboard.
Hey guys. I'm just listening. I'm listening. Like Cluminati said, I like to listen too. And of course I came up here because I'm like, ooh, they're in the jam. These guys are talking about some good stuff up here. And I like what Sergeant Friday said. I like what Cluminati said. I like, the art perspective and the getting to know who you are. And I like what you said, Tommy, about the black eyes and like, hey, I had to jump up. So that's why I'm here, but I'm listening. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. That's fine. That's good to see you. And your channel, man, a couple of your videos just blew me away the other night. Can't remember the names of them. A lot of times I'm on people's channels. Cluminati, I'm in yours a lot.
Oh, well, thank you.
But I don't chat much.
Yeah.
I try to, because then I kind of take away from your crowd. You know what I'm saying? I kind of because everybody's, oh, Tommy, hi, Tommy, and they're not listening to what.
It's like you got fans.
And that's the same with you, Michelle. I did say hi to you last night, though.
I saw you.
At about, did you? Yeah, that was like 4 in the fucking morning. Like, we're the night owl. I mean, I can't sleep. And then, of course, with everything that's been going on, it's been awful. And I'm upset and I can't, it's in my mind. And I finally got to sleep at right around 11:30, and I slept till 3:30 this afternoon. So I did get some sleep.
Have you been waking up late? I have too, and I know this case has affected us all in some weird kind of circadian rhythm.
It is weird, isn't it?
It is, and it is a dynamic, but I think you really hit it good, and I think that, well, all of you up here did tonight. All of you said some key points, but you really did hit it when you say it like, this is your baby. Or like the what you were playing.
Like my songs. Yeah, my songs are my children. They're my babies, man. They are my babies.
Right?
Yeah.
And this poetry, and this comes from a place of this is experience, and this is your telling a story is an important position to have. Yeah. And so this is important.
So I really understood him. I really understood him when he said his cases. How can he pick out like a favorite one? Because they're all his children.
Yeah, I really, really like that approach that you, and I like the fact that you played him tonight too, because we needed this refreshing look at, well, how do they look at a case? And like Cluminati said, listen, you're preparing a whole picture story for these jurors.
Yes.
To look at. And that's what she said, Cluminati up here. She said that, and that's important picture. Like these people, if you don't have that art perspective, that poetic look at things, there's something, there's an art and a finesse to this and presentation that Cluminati touches on. That's an important piece of this, and she's right.
Yeah, and it's not just go ahead.
She presents this case properly and shows the ineptitude of the action.
I'm scared about that, dude.
Well, no, listen, when you look at the crime scene, you look at the unprotected people moving in and out of it. You look at the fact that the FBI relied on a picture of a vehicle going the wrong way at the wrong time. You look at all of the specifics. They created a genealogical makeup that they will not give to the defendant because they didn't save their work. And you present that to the jury and say, now you're left with a situation where I can't argue whether that sample
the big key there. The key word that you said there, though, Sarge, present.
Right.
And that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
Her
worried about.
emotions look like they're going to go that way. She has all the knowledge that we have, probably, well, obviously a lot more.
But the knowledge and presenting that knowledge to a jury is two different things, and I know she's really good at the paperwork.
Yeah.
But I think I'd want somebody else presenting the case, because when I've seen her in court,
yeah,
you know what I'm
it's a
talking
little
about, right, Clue?
unimpressive. It is.
Not
But
very impressive.
when I watch Jay Logsdon, like he's sitting here arguing about the reasonable doubt versus probable cause, and I'm like, hell yeah, where do I sign? Like, I mean,
right.
Like, how many people can play really good music, but how many people will you pay to see in concert?
I didn't care for that man's presentation because it was cumbersome and overly long.
I do agree.
See, a good lawyer will get to the point. See, let me just say that if I'm going to tell you how an automatic transmission works, I got to do it in a very simple way and get to the point.
Yeah, please.
And so when you're presenting a case to a jury, as little words that you can use is the most effective presentation. And when you say that through the entire process, unfortunately, our law enforcement has failed us. And then you start bringing up scenes of the crime scene, unprotected people moving in and out, people sneezing while they're
and you're right about sometimes the simplest is the best. But I think key words and the way you express them, that's what I'm worried about. That is, people have told me I'm a good presenter. I don't know about all that. I was good in speech class and stuff. And I know a lot of times
Tommy, on the impediment end or what?
Oh my God.
Damn, Sarge, really?
Oh my God. Sarge is back.
I will say this much, though. I will say this much. It might have been a long speech, but I can tell you this. That judge was sitting there and he was like, it's creative. And then he said, I do think your argument is good.
Yeah, he was impressed.
Right. So long or not, I mean, he did the job. You know what I mean?
Sure, we'll get lost in all of that talking.
Right. And I'm hoping he's the presenter. I'm hoping it isn't her.
At that time, he was not talking to a jury. He was talking to a judge.
Yeah,
right.
That is true.
Yeah,
Look at his filings. They're the same as Ann Taylor's to the point, and he drops golden nuggets all the time, which I appreciate 100%. So his filings are short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah, right.
At least the one we've seen, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
it's gonna be really interesting.
They are a team, and I think they've got a defendable case in ways that's just simple because the police provide the defense for you.
Say that again.
Their case is easily defendable because the police provided the defense for them.
Oh yeah.
For every accusation, they provide an alibi or reasonable doubt.
Right.
All of their actions are subject to questions, and there is really no good answer to the questions.
Well, and that's
that we've seen so far. So
that's why this video made me think about that. Is there a way, there should be a process for auditing the prosecution's case and the legality of the methods that they used in building the case.
It's called the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's fair, right? That is what it's for. But here's what I'm looking at, right? By the time it gets to a Supreme Court level, this guy could either be convicted or not. And if he's not guilty, the person that did this, the longer time goes on, the further they get away from being caught.
Right.
Yeah, I just think there's just so many holes in the case, and I don't think she would be a bad presenter. I think what we've seen is she did back down when she alleged a prosecutorial misconduct. That pissed the judge off, and I did find that to be like a moment of weakness on her part. But in some sense, you do have to subject yourself to the judge, and so I don't know what to make of that. But I didn't care for her stepping back or apologizing or trying to explain herself. The bottom line is you people have had 10 motions. You haven't complied. As far as I'm concerned, that's prosecutorial misconduct. If I'm wrong, so be it. I apologize. But that's, I think she could have stood up a little tougher to that.
But the person that should be looked at in that situation as being wrong is the judge. Why are you emotionally invested in an accusation of prosecutorial misconduct?
He's been emotionally invested.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's a problem in that situation. Her taking a jab at the prosecution should be expected, especially from a judge's point of view. So for him to get pissed off, that's problematic for me.
Well, he got all like emotional reading the names. Remember the first time that we saw him? And then he came back and kind of pissed me off a little bit. I get that it's hard to do that, right? Especially if that's your city, your town, that's where you're from. But don't come back the next time and say, I apologize. Last time I had a hard time reading the names. Some of them are hard to pronounce. No, they're not.
Yeah.
Right.
Just admit that you got a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're human.
Yeah.
You're not a robot.
Right. Kathleen, is this? Hey, this must be for you, Sarge.
Dirty old man.
Oh yeah, that's for him.
Yep.
Not me.
Yeah,
Not me.
I don't know what they were talking about down there, but I seen that and I had to throw that.
Yeah, no, it has to be about me, but I have to feign ignorance. You know what I mean? I'm not me.
And never mind me if I drift off here a little bit because I'm gonna try to bring up people's chats and stuff here too. So
No, that's okay. Just realize I'm on the spectrum, and I can make mistakes, right?
Yeah, well, we all do, Sarge. We all do. We've all been there. We've all been there. Uh-oh. Who'd we lose? We lost Sarge.
Oh. It looks like he's jumping. Maybe he'll come right back, probably.
I bet it was a clock.
Let me see. I'll put another link out there just in case.
I bet that's what
it's kind of hard to go back up there. Is he still out there? I'd like to get strange. Swamp Rose is in here too. I see. If she wants to come up, she's welcome to come up.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and jump down. I wanted to come up and say hello and thank Sergeant Friday and Cluminati for their I mean, it's the smallest, it's the little things. It's the smallest piece of advice and or wisdom that you can share that really can change the perspective of a closed mind. So I appreciate you all mentioning what you did. And I can relate to the black eyes real quick before I leave, Tommy, that there was one time when I was living in North Carolina when I looked in the mirror at myself and I saw black eyes. Okay, my eyes are brown and I usually can see what my eyes look like. But I literally saw my eyes were black. I didn't recognize who the hell I was. And at the time, I was definitely using drugs. I'll admit that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was not the same person that I knew. I was
very
a completely different person.
Dark period of my life. Yeah.
Very dark, very dark. So when you said
that,
I remembered that happened to me too. And I wanted to tell you, I know it. I know what you say. So have a good night, everybody.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for coming up, Michelle. Yeah. You take care.
Keep creating. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah.
Likewise.
I was in a stream. I don't know if it was yesterday or not. And I was trying to point out that I think that when the FBI told us 11 to 13, that they were drawing from photographs that are not the photographs turned over to Ann. I think that they're withholding the original photograph that was reviewed by the FBI. And then they produced the photograph from Ridge Road. And the FBI guy said, yeah, that could be a 2015. And so I think that you would find that. So I think there is prosecutorial misconduct. And as far as I suspect the 3-point turn provided that the FBI analyst the back end of that car. And that's why he said 11 to 13. And in Ann's filing to the courts, she said that they heavily depended on a picture from Ridge Road for a car at the wrong time, going in the wrong direction.
Wrong way.
Okay.
Yep.
And that they're claiming is that where they came up with the 2015. I want to know where the picture is where you came up from 2011 to 2013. And I bet you that picture hasn't been turned over to Ann.
I'm just going to interject right there. That's why I said I like Jay Lawson, because that golden nugget came from him.
From who?
Jay Logston.
Nothing. Yeah, the other
Who's
lawyer.
that?
Oh,
Her
the other
lawyer, the
lawyer.
other guy on the team?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect that the photographs that they have don't show the FBI's original determination based off of that 3-point turn. I would be willing to bet real money on that. That when they came out and told us 2011 to 20 to 13, that was exactly what they saw on that 3-point turn with no ambiguity. I know it has to be. And then later on, when they changed it to 2015, and they're having him look at another picture, and he's like, "Yeah, that could be it too."
How could you base that? Like, that's the part that has always been in my head. Like, why would you not have better camera views and angles of pretty much every point of that car that's important if that car truly did a 3-point turn and you guys have it on camera?
I'm just, I mean, there's too much discrepancy in their story compared to what we know to be discovery because of her comments based on the discovery she's discussed, whether it be the DNA of the victims not being connected to him at all, no electronics connected to him at all, and then the identity of the car from a specificity of 11 to 13, then changing it conveniently once they grab Kohlberger and let everybody know it could be
There was too many convenient changes throughout this whole case. It was like whenever they needed it to fit to Brian, they made it fit to Brian.
Right. Everything suddenly coalesced around Brian.
But I worry about Judge. I worry about Idaho. I just things have been so brazen in this country, and so I think they can get away with this.
Well, I'm going to tell you this much. I was in a chat the other night, and I don't remember whose channel it was on, but some guy was saying that he just went to Moscow, and he could be full of shit. Okay, disclaimer, but he was saying that the majority of people there do not believe that Kohlberger did this.
Right. Yep. That's what I'm hearing too. Yep. Yep. And I think that's been for quite a while. It's just that people are scared to come out.
And that's a problem too, right? Because that goes along with the whole concept of from the corruption angle, right? Because why would anybody be scared to speak what they know, what they feel? Why would anybody be reserved to speak their feelings?
Can I point out that this case is defensible in three simple things. A, you can actually destroy the cast work because it was done by a local policeman. B, the video work because not all the video is being supplied, and the video that was supplied isn't consistent with the time of the crime. And C, the refusal and the destruction of genealogical data that did not allow us to review how they came to my client's tree. And therefore, we request this case to be brought back to us as not guilty on the grounds of a complete shit show that these people, you got to come up with legal words, but on those 3 points, because if the photos aren't conclusive, if the pings aren't conclusive, and there's no way to check the work of their genealogical discoveries, then that can't be conclusive. Therefore, you cannot convict this man.
Well, you have to find a little oddity. Just the FBI destroys all the evidence, all the notes, whatever, as to how they reached the family tree. And Taylor has Gabriela Vargas come in and testify, and literally that same night, the FBI is knocking on her house door.
I'm wondering if it wasn't to get more information myself, but I mean,
no, I think they did it specifically because of what she said on the stand about them going around the safety procedures that are in place. And she let the public know.
More than likely, yeah.
Remember when Dago was around before Rory, I was on there and I was pointing out to people that what the FBI is doing is illegal, and that's what these NDAs are about, and they don't want the American people knowing they're fishing around in places they don't belong.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the excuse they gave was she signed statements that she really didn't agree with. That's bullshit, and you know it. People in that position, they don't do that. Like, before you sign anything, you're gonna read it. And the statement she signed obviously matched what she said on the stand, or Ann Taylor would have said, no more questions. You know what I mean?
Why do you think that he didn't question her? The reason he didn't question her was because he didn't want her to elaborate into what those final pieces of testimony. And he didn't want to get into it. Yes, he did not want it. He did not want to be party to opening that up to the world.
Oh, I agree.
Right. Yeah, no doubt about it. Here's a good question from Terry Martin. Once upon a crime time, can you shed light on if it is normal to bury building rubble, and if they do anything needed to see if a murder weapon is in the rubble in case it was hidden in the house?
It's normal to bury the rubble. That is
really?
Normal. Oh yeah. And any debris that goes to a landfill gets buried. That's why they call it a landfill.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. Right? But
and then sifting through the rubble would have been an arduous task, and you would have had to do that at the scene.
I agree.
Or you would have had to have big screens, and you would have had that would have been a hell of a job.
But on something like this, you would think they'd want to at least look around a little bit. I mean, if I was a detective, I would want to. Just out of my curiosity.
I would think if that, and she and I have talked about this before, just sitting here, and I think if that weapon were left in that house, that it would have there's only a handful of accessible places that wouldn't be visible after you deposit it, right? And I think that I would hope that law enforcement searched every one of those, searched that house thoroughly for it.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
See my tag?
Oh, there's Swamp Rose. Well, hello, Swamp Rose. Good to see you. I watch your channel.
Oh, I'm so grateful you invited me on tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. How you doing? And what's your take on things?
Oh, thank you so much. I think I have feedback. Hold on, let me stop. I don't know if I can really contribute much to this conversation, but I just thought when I heard the subject, I'd bring up one part of prosecutorial misconduct, which I don't know if this qualifies, but I think not opposing tearing down the house is pretty bad. I mean, I would think that that's grounds to come back after the case. I don't know. I don't have a legal background, but I feel like it's the biggest piece of evidence, and it's just odd that nobody objected to it, I think.
The defense didn't object to it. They had no problem with it.
Oh, yeah, it's a win for Koberger.
I agree. It's a W for the defense.
But I will say the prosecutorial misconduct, I think, honestly, they might be referring to the grand jury asking for more information and them not being given it.
That could be, yes.
I thought it was the grand jury instruction on.
But they asked
that too. That was a key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you folks think that they could come back if on appeal, if something, if Brian were to be convicted, could they come back on appeal and say that tearing down the house was something that the defense should have objected to?
I don't know because the defense agreed. What do you think, Sarge?
Well, the defense agreed, but I think the defense agreed because Idaho law allows for them to do that, and it was the judgment of it was the judgment of them, not so it wasn't the defense's suggestion, and I think that could be used against them, especially in a closing argument about the improper handling of the crime scene with the cherry on top of the cake, knocking the house down to prevent you folks from walking through it.
Yeah.
Now, they may come back and say, well, they didn't object to it. Well, no matter what we object to, my client's still been in jail for more than a year, and he never got out. Here we are 2 years later, he's still in jail. No matter what objection I file, it seems to go nowhere. So we just didn't want to die on that hill.
And they immediately have the argument of, you weren't listening to the families. Why would you listen to the defense?
Right. Yeah. So I think that they're in a better, they're in the driver's seat when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Right. Boy,
and they are in the driver's seat, Terry, when it comes to, but most landfills, they just push and cover. They push and cover. They don't normally, and I'm in a construction business, so landfills are a part of where our stuff goes. And they don't do the extensive sifting through for recyclables and things than you think they do.
You know, the prosecutorial misconduct could have something to do with the Brady information too.
Yeah.
Come again? What information?
Brady Giglio.
They filed a Brady Giglio.
Oh,
right.
So that could have something to do with prosecutorial misconduct. Because let's not forget, like there was just think about Stickergate, where the prosecution was saying no, this audio and video doesn't exist, but the cops, MPD officers were actually coming to court saying, yeah, actually it does exist. So we just accessed it. Literally, that's what they were telling them.
Yeah.
So it's not, to be fair to MPD, they were going in that court case and they were telling the truth. It was the prosecution above them that was lying, which has been me and fiance's kind of thing from the beginning. If there is any corruption, it's going to be above what I believe to be in the local officers.
I want to make a point. I think this is going to offend some people, especially one person in particular. But unfortunately,
no, not me.
Fortunately, the system has been being used corruptly, and it's become a customary to the people that operate it.
That's what's sad. Yes.
Right. Like I say a lot of times, and I know people may not like it, but when I say I agree with the point of Black Lives Matter, the systematic, endemic corruption of the system is true. I don't like how they deal with it and how they don't really elaborate on those words, because those words mean everything to their point. It's like a cop going 60 and a 30. It's an endemic set of behaviors and perceptions and views that these people carry to their work, and then they impose that particular way of being on the people they're dealing with, and you're not supposed to do that. That's not what
here's the thing though, is they're stuck. The prosecution is fucking stuck in this case. They cannot go back now. For one thing, if they go back, Brian is going to own Moscow, Idaho.
They're insured.
He will fucking own them. So how can they admit any mistakes? How can they go back? Like, even if they found out who, you think if they found out who actually really did it, that they would stand
the father? Steve, the father, said that people need to admit their mistakes and accept the consequences.
Yeah,
exactly.
Remember?
Yeah,
but that's not gonna. They're not gonna have the town go down the tubes. I guarantee you.
They wouldn't. They're insured. I wouldn't. I don't have any concern that the town is going to go down the tubes. My biggest concern is that what you're seeing here is consistent pretty much across the board in America, and that's frightening. It's frightening.
Well, that's why I think this case is so. I think this case is so big, because if they get away with this, doing what they did with the IGG and everything, that's going to create a standard for the rest of the fucking country. And that's what I've been trying to tell people for a long time. Is this 100%. Is a huge. Right. This is a huge fucking case for this country.
Right.
Yes. And I don't agree. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't agree. I think if the FBI magically finds you through some investigative genealogy, whatever, you ought to be able to know and see exactly how they got to you. Because without that, you have no defense. Period.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
And that's the big hide. And the other big hide is, how do you take 8 or 10 microscopic skin cells and determine the identity of a full human being? So it's kind of like leaving little fragments of a bullet and then telling me you can reconstruct this to the exact caliber bullet that it started out as. And you can't. You just can't do that. Right. Lead is lead. And so if you got 8 or 10 microscopic pieces of a bullet, you're not going to be able to tell me if that came from a 38 or a 45 or You're just not going to be able to do it. But yeah, you could do that with skin cells.
Well, and at the end of the day, right, the biggest problem I have is they admit in the PCA they have they get the tip about him on November 29th. They do not tell any other investigative work or anything else that they do on him from then until all of a sudden they file for the search warrants. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're left to assume that they didn't go knocking on any doors. They didn't go do really any legwork and any real investigation, old school investigation, the things that we pay for. And I don't understand why we veer so far away from that and go to these modern technological advancements solely instead of doing the actual legwork.
I'm not convinced he wasn't turned in Pennsylvania. Like, I'm not.
Well, here's the story I heard. Okay, and it came from a fairly good source. They knew on it was either the 14th or the 15th. They knew Brian Kohlberger's name because they ran all Elantras that had gotten pulled over, and his name came up from the August pullover. So they had his name as early as November 15th.
Well, and I mean, that's what I'm getting at, right? At what point do you guys, I mean, you've got thousands of people on this case all the way up to the FBI. Why are you not going and just knocking on doors saying, hey, where were you? Can I ask you some questions?
Right.
To see what happens.
Here, I'll say this. Listen, if I were to approach Tommy Two-Tone and say, Tommy, you're not being accused of anything. But you do own the exact make, model car that we're interested in. And you, in general, fit the description of the accused. And we need to eliminate you. Especially with the day of the internet, Mr. Tom. We need to eliminate you. Would you please offer us a DNA sample?
Right.
Would you let us look through your car?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
all right, have a seat, Mr. Tommy Two-Tone. We're going to get right on this to inconvenience you as little as possible. We don't want to interfere with your life.
But I'm saying if I'm innocent, if I was guilty,
but
I would say I want to talk to a lawyer.
But to that point, if you've got the guilty mindset and you want to resist, right? That's the point. They typically go and get search warrants and collect what they wanted to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, you start a professional investigation against your target. You don't let your target wander around and then end up 2,500 miles away. Especially when your investigation does show
at all.
You show the signs of intelligent investigators. You're taking pictures of tire marks. You're surreptitiously collecting cigarette butts to sample. You're questioning what you claim to be everybody around and connected to the victims, right? And so it would only make sense to say that people that own an Elantra, you may be approached by the police department. Don't take that as an accusation. We're going to clear as many local Elantra owners as possible. Please, if you would like, drive to the police station and talk to us. There was a million things they could have done that would have been completely investigative to find, like I said in the streams I've been saying.
And then look at the ones that didn't come in. That's a great point, Sarge. That's a great.
If you would have had the information, there was no victim cross contamination on Brian, on his apartment or his car and his workplace before you went for arrest. What if you had that information before, as you were doing a proper investigation? Would you then have asked for a warrant to arrest this guy? I don't think so.
All right.
Sarge.
Yes.
Sarge.
Yeah, go ahead, Clement.
You just learned to say that word, didn't you? Surreptitious.
No, I've been saying that for years.
He's going to be saying that like 5 times a day now for the next week.
Listen, Thug Pauline. Just because you renamed the trampoline, which is a trailer park toy, okay? So now Thug Pauline, which is a city toy. It just doesn't wash with me.
Wayne B brings up a point here that I've been saying that could be happening. They might throw this case.
Yeah,
they might be. Yeah, they might throw this case. So justice is served.
Well, for me, if the whole point to get someone was just to save the university's appearance and everything, right? Do they really care if they get a conviction?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case at all. I think what happens is like if you look at Stickergate, right? I think what happens is they get tunnel vision and they stick with the story, and then out of nowhere something disrupts that story and they're hung out to dry, and then they act all surprised, right? I think what they do is they try to protect themselves for the acts that they've taken that are a mistake, rather than owning up to their mistake and looking to find the corrections and where they went wrong to get to the correct answer.
And I think what happened, and I think this is the story really, is they caved in to university pressure too quick. And I think that is really what happened here. And it's sad because I think it's going to end up ruining some lives. And it already has ruined some lives. They should have taken their fucking time. Excuse my language. But they should have taken their time. And I think they cleared people a little too quickly, and they made an arrest, which is crazy. It took them a while, but in my opinion, they have the wrong man. But I think it comes down to, I think they caved into pressure.
And I think it's just hard-headed determination through tunnel vision. I don't know that they're doing this to save money, or I think when people lie, it's a personal thing to save face for yourself. So just keep in mind that sometimes the prosecutor isn't giving everything the policeman knows, because the policeman's trying to save face.
I'm not necessarily so convinced that anybody lied, right? If I look at the PCA, I don't really see anything in there that, I mean, there's the part with Dylan's statement that doesn't make any damn sense at all. But aside from that, I don't look at that and see anything that I think right off the top of my head really points to one of the officers lied. What I look at and question is, why in the hell did a judge put his stamp on that for an arrest warrant?
It wasn't
that's where the problem comes in for me.
Yeah, but it wasn't him. It was a different judge, and I think.
No, I know it was a different judge, but any judge in just in general, right? You're a judge. You're an official. You should be signing off on something that makes sense, that you read through and you see a clear path from A to Z as to why you should be basically incarcerating a citizen.
Right. So here's what I
doesn't make sense.
I said this got me into the case, and it did in the very beginning. When they arrested him on full charges of the crime, including the felony burglary, and they did that based on a comparison of his father's DNA, that's still genealogical work. That's not investigative work. That's genealogical work. And you're not supposed to use that in any court proceedings. And applying for an arrest warrant it's a simple court proceeding that they must go through a judge to get a warrant. And so I think on that also is an area that Ann needs to attack, because what they should have done, in my opinion, and I'm not a policeman, but once they had an identity, almost surety that the son of this particular person is most likely, or definitely we think is the perp, they should have found a way to obtain his DNA. And I'm going to say it again, surreptitiously, and then compare it to what they had. You see, they didn't do that. They arrested him immediately without evidence that DNA matched him, only with a genealogical statement or suggestion. And genealogical work has room for error. So I just think that the arrest was premature, that they had work to do, especially if that's a tip. And when did they do that work? Only after they arrested the man did they get a warrant to get his to take a buccal swab.
Well, it was all part of the same warrant, right? It was an arrest and a search warrant at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So the arrest warrant wasn't obtained from I thought it was from the trash at the house in Pennsylvania.
But that trash didn't match Brian Koberger. And here's another thing, and it's going to sound weird, but true. The father's DNA didn't match the sheath either. You're not your kid, so how could your DNA match the sheath DNA? It can't, because you're not the kid. You're the father. So they had non-matching DNA samples that genealogy tells you matches.
Yeah.
Well,
not chemically match.
Terry brings up a point that I was told also, do you think they waited to arrest him in Pennsylvania because they didn't have enough to get an arrest warrant in Idaho? But PA did sign off on a warrant, and I heard this. I heard that they weren't signing off on that warrant. They needed to get that IGG before that judge would sign off in Idaho.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to that, right? The IGG. That's what ultimately led them to him. You can look up how long it takes to do IGG. You can look at the November 29th date to December 23rd, and it's almost the perfect amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's quite apparent that the IGG is what they used in order to trigger them to look for him, and then therefore gather the trash to see if they could get a match. And when they got a match to his dad, they said, "Okay, well, let's arrest him."
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think the problem with the genealogy, and this is the funny thing. This is my opinion of how the laws in the country are and why they're doing what they're doing. They don't want the genealogy to be focused on because they're breaking the barrier of your right to privacy when they hunt through a third party into databases they don't have legal access to. That's why they're playing this game. That's what someone just brought it up in the chat room about the touch DNA. I don't have that big problem with the touch DNA, but I do have a problem that if you're going to amplify it and you're going to alter it from its original state, and you search in your law enforcement databases and can't match it, and then you go to a genealogist that is not law enforcement, that then uses tools to get into databases they don't belong, and gives that information to law enforcement, who then claims they're given a tip, that entire act is unconstitutional and criminal. And should not be applied or allowed at all. And that's why I believe the FBI uses NDAs to hide their involvement in this stuff. They're using third parties to break the law. Our government does it all the time. They use contractors and corporations to censor us. YouTube and everybody else.
It's interesting you say that, because I seem to remember something about them having to get permission from the DOJ in order to release some of this information when Ann Taylor was originally asking for it.
Right. And Bill Thompson keeps arguing he can't give her what he doesn't have because the FBI has already filed paperwork saying they didn't save any of the work or they deleted it.
Well, so I read up on that. Me and fiance read up on that. When you do the IGG, so technically they tell them to do exactly what the FBI is saying they did, right? They tell them to destroy all of the notes, and is that right? And everything that they used in their investigation, right? Which is again a little crazy, because I feel like it's a potential huge problem for any citizen. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think what you're saying, though, I think what you're missing is that the FBI wasn't the investigative agency on this case. That's why they're hiding behind a tip status. So what I think what you're saying is because you're a tip, you could throw it away or don't keep it. But
no, that's not it. It has to do with using IGG in a case.
Yeah, according to the DOJ's direction, they're to destroy their entire work,
notes, anything written on a Post-it.
Once they've completed their work, which is crazy as hell. Okay, it's just so insane that's
not what I read. I read that they were supposed to keep all of that and give it to the prosecution. Their work was supposed to be turned over to the prosecution. That's what the DOJ guidelines are pretty specific. If you're going to use this, you need to account for what you've done.
We'll have to find where we saw that.
Yeah.
Find where you saw that, because what I read was different. The DOJ annual says give it to prosecution. See, Jennifer, it's amazing when you meet someone as clever as you. That would be me.
What did he say?
I was replying to a chat person. Hey, I'll never grow up, folks. I'll always say stupid shit for a laugh. I can't help myself.
Really? You don't say Hamburg?
Pebble says, is that the way of giving yourself a compliment? Well, listen, like I said before, I love myself first. All else are second and down. What can I say?
You got to take them where you can get them, right, Sarge?
Yeah. I just got a proposal too. Look at that. Will you marry me? Sorry.
Don't do that. He can't. Don't marry him. He cannot say hamburger. You will literally. It'll be cute for like a month. Then it'll be one of those things that you just want to be like, ugh, why did I do this? Over.
Over. Enough. But isn't that what makes a relationship a good relationship? You struggle through all your tribulations and trials rather than running away.
Learn to say hamburger.
I will say hamburger all day, every day. Thank God you're marrying her there, Cletus. I don't know which one of us would have a black eye. Probably each of us. Sucker punches. Bam. Here, now put some hamburger on that sore eye.
Jesus.
My mom always said what you fall in love with if there's something that you fall in love with of somebody, it'll be that thing that drives you apart. And sometimes that
really
works
true.
out.
That's probably actually really true.
Right. What something that you fall in love with on a person is going to be the thing that you can't stand.
Well, I'm confused though. Is that kind of like the equivalent of you liked her chest and then in 10 years it started falling some, so then it drove you apart, or is it like something they do?
Yeah, you wouldn't want it to be aesthetic changes. I mean,
part of their personality was something that you fall in love with about their personality. By the time it's said and done, that's something that you can't stand about them later on. I think is what she was.
Yeah. What if you get one of those? What if you get one of those tumors that surround your entire torso and it's like
that is a couple of my exes, Sarge. They were a couple of tumors growing on the side of me.
Oh my God. Poor ladies, poor women.
I don't know if you folks can hear it, but there's a huge windstorm on the East Coast, and my internet keeps cutting out. I'm gonna call a night. I just wanted to say I'm so honored you asked me to come on in the live chat. It's so nice to.
Oh, that's fine, Swamp. Yeah, I wanted you to know that I watch your channel and stuff, and I was happy to see you. Yeah, make sure you.
In the room.
Yeah,
I will do. And
get her link.
My husband actually showed me one of your videos the other night, so he watches you. And Strange Suspicious sent me here tonight, so it's funny.
Right, yeah, and I love her channel. Right.
Yeah, me too. She's great. So thank you, and I love Cluminati. Cluminati, I'm a huge fan. Yep. I'm so glad I got to be in the same chat
for a long time.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to meet you finally, virtually.
Well, it was great, and I hope you guys have a great night. So.
Yeah, you too, Swamp.
Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Rock and roll. Yep. Pebbles said something here. This is from Pebbles. Interestingly enough, them admitting that they had his father's DNA put him in a worse position because people that can critically think realized that DNA could have allowed them to build a profile.
Once they got the father's DNA. Yeah.
Right.
And has anyone ever realistically thought about what they're saying? So you guys were monitoring the trash, collected it without anybody knowing. That same day you managed to you guys have a helicopter on standby, fly it back to Idaho, test it, and then by the next day it's done. And then you go back and get him.
How did they collect that trash without anyone knowing? What is that word?
Surreptitiously. Was that wrong?
I got you to say it, didn't I?
Yeah. I didn't but I want to hear you say it.
No, I pass.
Yeah.
Surreptitiously.
It's almost as bad. I'm almost as bad with that word as Dago is interlocutory.
Interlocutory. Right.
He can't say that word for nothing. It's so cute. He's like, I can't do
it. Oh man, I wonder where he's at tonight. He's running alive.
Well, I think it's fair to say if you can't trust the video evidence and you can't trust the cell phone ping evidence, then there's no way you can trust the DNA conclusions.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like I'm curious. Like I tried to Google this a million times. Sarge, you said the other night you got to learn how to use Google. See, can you find this answer? How long does it take to do a STR to STR match? Because I'm like, does that really take less than like 12 hours?
Hang on.
Say that again, Cluminati.
So like they collected the trash, right? They realized that the dad, the person on the sheath was like 90% chance that was his dad, right?
Right.
So they had to take that trash from Pennsylvania, get it back to Idaho, get it to the lab, and get someone to test it, and then come back to Idaho or tell them in Idaho it's a go. And it's
was it Idaho's lab, or did they just send it to like Virginia?
No, it went back to Idaho. And I'm like, how long would that take? Could they realistically get that done in 2 days?
Yes.
Well, is that the test time, Sarge?
Yes. It says look at. Depending on the laboratory, results can take as little as 2 working days to come back from the receipt of the samples. Other laboratories may take as long as 10 working days to provide your results.
But it wasn't even 2 days.
No, because
it was overnight.
Yeah.
And then they say they take it back to the Idaho State Lab. Y'all got people there 24/7 working?
No, they would bring them in, though. I mean, this case is huge. So I don't know. I think, just so you know, because they have to magnify what they collected, you're looking at a result. So you've got a result that they created that has these markers. And then you're taking the father's DNA and you're developing it. You're laying that down and looking to see if his markers match those markers. How many of them match? And then they're making their determination. I think you can do that because all you had to do was get the printout of his DNA and the markers on that DNA. I'm simplifying it, but that's how they do it. It's a graph. We'll call it a graph.
Well, I mean, there's
highs and lows.
Or A to C. You know what I mean? There's only so many combinations.
I don't object to some of the things they did timeline wise. I don't see an objection to it. I think their conclusions are questionable because they're all 3 of their arguments that we are aware of have holes in them, and they provide reasonable doubt in all of them.
So I saw a comment, Tommy. I am personally not the person to ask about these fight clubs.
I see. I'm looking at that right now.
I am not the person to ask. Just like
okay. Well, I'll explain this real quick to her. Yes, the fight clubs did happen. We seen it with our own lives. But when I first stated at the beginning, I said, "Oh, they took Ethan out there," and I can't say that. We seen somebody laying there, but was it Ethan? I can't say it was. Was he dead? I can't say this person was. Was there a fight club going on? Yes, in my opinion, very much so. Yes.
I feel like if that truly is the case, right? We can hear the police, horn honk twice, right? That's parked by the band field. How do you have a fight club and that camera on Linda Lane is not capturing just the most god awful noise?
Actually, it did catch some of it, and there is explanations for that, but I don't want to. I actually don't. I'm trying to get away from all that right now. We might get into it at some point again.
It's hard to approach this as solving the case. I don't think there's enough information, and there's not enough. There's not enough
there, and the pictures are not clear enough to use in a court of law.
Right.
But did we see movements, and did we see people there, and did we hear things? Oh yeah, we did. And did we see fighting? Yes, till 5 o'clock in the morning we seen fighting. But does that mean that it happened there? No, it doesn't mean that. And I got excited. I'm a very excitable person. And
Sorry.
I think somebody learned that a couple of days ago too. but yeah, I can't say for sure. I'm 95% sure that there was fights going on there. I mean, you can see them fighting and stuff, but I can't. Yeah, and I don't believe there's tunnels under there anymore. And I'm going to be focusing more now on this case as in what is real and what is there. You know what I'm saying? Not something that could be there.
Yeah,
I
like
need to start. Right.
to be fair, the only thing that I find just quite frankly odd as hell on that Linda Lane footage is that big SUV that pulls out literally
That's
when
part of
you
it.
guys say the crime ended. Literally, like if that person didn't run into quote unquote Koberger, it's a miracle.
Yeah. Can I reply to some of the chat room?
He did that 3-point turn or whatever.
No,
they were in back of the truck at that time at 420 at 4.
Oh yeah, you're talking about when he backed
at
up.
406 at 406.
Oh no, I'm talking about the one at 420. It's a big. You see this dude running.
Yeah, it's the same truck. Yep.
And he backs up and then he leaves, and it's like, how is this not suspicious to anybody working on this case that's seen this video?
Yeah.
Right. And what's her name? Who usually sides with the prosecution and everything, allegedly innocent. That was the very first one I seen, and she had like different filters and stuff. And what it showed was this, and it shows that it's a girl with long hair, and she comes running and she dives head first into the back seat, and then they take off at 4:23 a.m. Why is that not part of this case?
Right, like it's
because of their tunnel vision, because of the tunnel vision on the information they had, they zeroed in on and built a case around it.
Right.
And everything else be damned. And that's why it's so hard. You can't really solve the case because, you know, there just isn't enough resources. Is there enough suspicious activity conjoined with what we see in the link? Sure there is. And Linda Lane footage offers all kinds of stories you can tell. They just happened to, they told the Brian Koberger story they're sticking with, right? That's the story they're going with. The other story they didn't look into, and I think that's part of the problem the parents have and how quick people were eliminated and things were ignored. The parents themselves have issues with that.
Oh yeah, because Chris
and I do want to reply to a chat room comment where he points out that at trial fingernails or fingernails and other DNA, and what you have to know that you may not know, Donald Denice 3838, is that in the reply, an motion from the defense stated that based on the discovery they had, the discovery that they had that there was no victim DNA associated with Brian Koberger in his car, apartment, workplace, or home in Pennsylvania. And there was no connection between Koberger, electronic or otherwise. And when they made the statement in their motion that there was no DNA of the victims, they also said there's no reason to explain why there was no DNA, which is basically telling you where's the argument there's no DNA in the car, but it's covered in bleach or cleaning solutions. So as far as we know now, factually, there is no victim DNA tying Brian Koberger to the victims, nor is there any electronic or other means of connections between Mr. Koberger and the victims. So that's information that we have that's a fact based on the documents, and you have to accept that until and unless there's evidence that's produced that contradicts it. But at this point in time, I think everyone on the panel is comfortable with that knowledge that it's accurate, and that's what you have to accept it as.
Exactly. Yep. And we have to go by what is factually there. I mean, I can sit here all day long and go, "Oh, Linda Lane this, Linda Lane that," but I mean, if I can't prove it, it's worthless, right?
Correct.
It's worthless. It's if it can't be used in the court. In the court of law, it has no value.
And if what's coming out of the court of law are statements of fact, and there's no argument from the other side to contradict it, then you have to accept that as the fact as they both understand it. right? And they can't suddenly surprise everybody at trial with DNA samples that they didn't produce during discovery. You can't just pull something out of your ass as a prosecutor and say, look what I've done. It's very rare that you can get away with that. They did that in the Murdaugh case, but there was a specific technical reason for the delay of the information being communicated. And that's, you know, so you can kind of do that, but it's, you can't plan for it as a prosecution.
No.
Right? Yeah. So.
Okay, let me get your guys' ideas on what your opinions are on how this is going to turn out. Go ahead, Sarge. I'm giving you the mic first. Your opinion on how this case is going to turn out.
I don't really feel 100% it's going to make it to a trial. I just don't. I don't care if they're talking. I don't think it's good. They're not done filing their motions and making their arguments for dismissal. That needs to be done. But if it does go to a trial, and unless evidence is produced that significantly alters our perspectives, then I don't think that you can convict Bryan Kohberger at all. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say at this point, and I haven't said this for the whole time, that I don't believe Bryan Kohberger is the man that did this crime.
All right, thank you, Sarge. I know you haven't said that, and that's why I've asked this question. I am a sneaky little fuck, you know.
I've been wanting to say that for the last maybe 2 days, because I'm firmly on the side that the evidence is so questionable that I don't believe that it established him as the criminal. You're going to have to produce something very, very, very poignant, and I don't believe they can.
Right. Yeah. And in my opinion, I guess I feel the same. I'm a little worried because it's Idaho, and because it's Idaho people in the jury. That worries me a little bit. But I agree. I agree with you, Clemenati and Cletus.
So I think anybody who makes a determination like that before having all the evidence is taking a gamble, and I need to see everything they have, period.
Say that one more time, girl.
So I think anyone who could say definitively, right, he didn't do this. I think at this juncture, it's probably not the smartest thing. No offense, Sarge, but we don't have all the evidence. Like we could.
Okay, I'm going. Okay, yeah. All right, I see what you're getting at here. Yeah.
Now there's so there's a lot that needs to be explained.
Okay, but the question, I guess, let's put everything aside, and I guess I'm going by what your feelings are towards the case, and just how you feel it's going to go. And
I think there's a fairly decent possibility that he did do this. They just found him the wrong way.
Okay.
And I don't know, like I'm so 50-50, like I really am, because
yeah, I know you are. That's why I wanted to ask you guys this question today, is to put the pressure on you.
Well, because at the same time, the minute I say that, the other side of me is like, hey, there's just an equal a chance that they built their case to fit someone they wanted to take the fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to stick, you're not going to answer my question. You're just going to go 50-50, right? So
yes. That's
Cletus, you got a smart one. You got a smart one over there that knows how to squiggle her way out of things.
I want to clarify. I don't feel that he didn't do it. I based on the existing evidence, say he did not do it. The existing evidence does not establish enough proof for me that he did anything incorrect. I think this guy's plagued with coincidences. He's one of those guys that shit just happened.
That's what I think too. And what about you, Cletus?
So every day I change my mind, or every 3 days I change my mind.
I know. I watch you guys.
Yesterday I was convinced he did it, or he didn't do it, but that he was going to be found not guilty. I still think he's going to be found not guilty, and I'm not convinced that he did it. Right now, I'm leaning more toward his innocence.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy, before I forget.
Uh-huh.
Has anyone thought about the fact that there was this whole thing circulating with that, like, shows Koberger, his, like, prison number and everything? It's like Koberger prison, da-da-da-da. It's like his profile. Right. And it literally says release date 1/26.
Oh, January 27th.
Yeah. I saw 26th. But what's freaking hilarious about that now is they've released that this next court date is January 26th, 23.
24.
24.
Yeah.
Sorry, whatever. Yeah. Y'all know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, that's his release date too. Sorry.
24. That is interesting. Okay. So that's the next court date is the 26th?
Yes. And like I saw that come out and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I've seen this date. And I'm like, oh, somebody put out this picture of him, his like little prison card. You know what I'm talking about? Like online, it'll show the prisoner and their number and everything. And it says release date 1/26/24. And I'm like,
isn't that the date to dismiss, a motion to dismiss?
Yes.
Yeah, but what she's talking about, that's been out for.
I know what she's talking about. She's saying that information coming from the prisoner's information shows him being released that day.
It does.
What if they side with the defense? Then he gets released that day, doesn't he?
I mean,
wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that?
They're not saying. I'm not saying that that's what that's indicating. All I'm saying is that there is a possibility for that to be a release date because they may agree with the motion to dismiss. Well, not that they're going to. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
The coincidences that have occurred for him to be where he's at, it wouldn't surprise me for that to be another coincidence.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go out in front of the thing, and he's eating a hamburger and having a Coke.
Jesus Christ.
I'm going to pledge a lifetime supply of hamburger for Mr. Koberg. Mr. Koberger.
We need to have Sergeant Dago and keep having them say exculpatory and hamburger all night long.
And stereotypically. Oh man, if you can't laugh, you can't live, man. I don't care where your laughter comes from or where you are when you enjoy it. You gotta have it.
Well, then I'll tell you that were you in here at the beginning of the show?
I wasn't. I didn't even know. I came online to check my emails.
Were you were in pretty early, right? Clue and Cletus, right?
Yeah, I've been here since the beginning.
Okay, right. And you heard the wild story I heard from this alleged lawyer, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know.
No, I haven't told Sarge this yet.
Okay.
Okay. Sarge. So I got hooked up with this alleged lawyer from Ohio yesterday, right? And I'm talking, and he says that he's got proof. Now this is wild as shit, all right? This is, they say this is just wild, okay? He says that the kids are missing. They're not dead. They're missing.
What?
That's what this guy says. And he says he's got proof and he's a lawyer.
Listen.
I ended up leaving we were talking on Messenger. And I ended up believing him, telling him he was wacko. But
right.
Like I've got no.
But I found it interesting.
I have no lie to tell. I know they cut out floors and I know they cut out some of the walls, but when you look at them tear that house down, in none of like the 2x4s that are at the actual like stick frame, not foundation, but stick frame of this house, I didn't see any of them like discolored.
Well, you wouldn't.
Right.
It doesn't soak through the drywall and get to the
Really?
stud.
I mean, it leaked
Yeah.
out of the house in the back.
Nah. No.
Yeah, you would think there'd be something. No.
There'd be
Even
no
just
drywall down at the
floor.
floor level, just so you know. I mean, the floor and the drywall aren't necessarily all one continuous butt up. They don't butt
No,
together.
I know.
That
Like, and I know that you have like a subfloor or whatever, but like
Nah, I don't think.
I've seen photos where that stuff will go under all of that. You know what it just seemed like a very clean house for
Right. Where you should have paid attention for blood would be the sill plate that the wall is built on. So you put in a concrete block foundation, or you pour your foundation. On top of that, you put a 2x8. You may put more than one plank across there, and that's where then you nail your studs to that wood that you secure to the cement. So on top of the cement, they call it a sill plate. It's a wood plate that's attached permanently to the cement block, and then your framing gets nailed to that. That sill plate would have caught some of that blood.
Where I used to stash my weed.
Where were you when they tore the house down?
You may be able to, but they pushed the house over the top of that area, so I don't know. Right,
Well,
when he knocked the house down, he pushed it towards the area to the right of the house. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. And the other half, the other location where the actual crime was committed was gone before the cameras really got rolling.
Well, before sunlight.
Yeah,
the whole front of the house was gone. Yeah, and I still don't see that as an issue, to be honest with you. As far as them getting there early and doing their thing, I don't know. There's a lot of conspiracies that are out there from channels that have a high user count. And they'll argue till they're dead in the face that they don't create conspiracy theories, and it's possible they don't believe they are. But
and I don't want people to think that's where I'm going with that, because I'm just repeating.
No. There's one person out there that's created a lot of. I've fallen for it too. And when you stand back and look at the evidence, you realize that there's no validity to the statements being made, and they just
These are all
send us all down a rabbit hole. Right. Remember the blood on the porch? The blood on the porch and the ladder? What kind of a rabbit hole was that?
Like, I tell you a question I've had from the beginning. Did any of these parents actually get to see their kids?
I'm sure after the fact, sure.
Okay. I just have to interrupt. I just have to interrupt here real quick. Heather and Jennifer, can you please email me that information, and Pebbles or give them our email address, okay? The mods email address. I appreciate it. Okay, anyway. Sorry.
It's just, I don't know. I've had that question, did they actually get to see these kids? Or is it a situation where the cops and everything, you really don't want to see that? Let us take care of it. You know what I mean?
No, they've indicated to us they've seen them by describing some of the wounds. Our daughter appeared to have fought back. And
that doesn't mean that they saw them, though. They could be getting that from the cops, to be fair, or the autopsy. They said they spoke to the coroner. Right?
Yeah. I don't know. I go either way, whether they did or not. What's the relevance?
I mean, I don't know. I just
maybe that's that lawyer's argument they're missing instead of actually passed away.
Well, no, it would support that potentially, right? But it would also say this wasn't done in the manner that they say.
No, I don't.
You know what I mean?
I think the parents that wanted to view their children were able to view their children, at least their faces, right? If the faces weren't wounded by the knife, I don't see how a coroner, because first the parent has to positively identify them, whether they got ID or whatever on the victim. And the parent, I can't imagine a parent not wanting to see their departing child, and them denying it. I don't think Mr. Steve could have kept his mouth closed. To be honest with you, they wouldn't even let me see my kid. What kind of, I don't think Steve could have kept that to himself the way he acts. And I'm not degrading the guy. I'm just saying I see a lot. I'd be freaking out if I was him. If I were him, I'd probably be 10 times worse. But
yeah, if there's one that that makes me think that that's absolutely, you know, he saw his child, it would be Steve. I can't imagine a scenario where he, as he presents himself, would be somebody that wouldn't. I just can't see it myself.
I mean, I know a family whose loved one died like overseas, right? When they sent him back, didn't nobody look in the casket. I'm just saying, like it is like a lot of times people don't want to remember their loved one looking that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why
Like
I
you
don't go to
want
funerals, man. I don't go to funerals unless you cremate yourself. I don't want to see you like that.
No, duly noted.
Yeah. So get out the matches if you're going to invite me, or I'll bring it with some gas, whatever it takes.
Jesus Christ.
Now listen, I was at a funeral. This is many years ago. And it was with friends and stuff, and someone passed away. We all knew, and it was cold out. It was like November, December. It was freezing out, and they had the doors to the funeral parlor open for people to move in and out of the building, and it was cold as hell in there. So you go into the viewing room where all the chairs is, and it's cold. But in the area that they had, it's like a recessed cubicle where they were displaying the ashes and the flowers and the pictures. I go up there with a few friends, and I can't tell you, it's got to be, it's hot as can be. There's nowhere else anywhere as hot as this particular area where the ash urn is. And I look around at everybody and I say, don't these people know they're supposed to cool that shit off before they put them on display?
Oh my God.
Everybody started laughing. They all had to run out of the place because they didn't want to have people see them laughing at the urn.
I know that I probably sound like a crazy person, but I saw somebody's comment said, my parents had me identify my brother. There are a lot of parents who don't want to view their child in that state. And in my mind, it is a conspiracy theory. Sometimes I'll go there. I'm like, could they have been convinced this was so terrible? This was so awful. This was just so, you do not want to see your kid like this. I promise you.
Yeah, but I don't think they would have hidden the kids from, I don't think in this case they would have hidden the kids from the parents. They may have advised against it or strongly advised against it, but I think if the kid, they wanted to see their, and they weren't all, you know, God forbid, we don't know where the wounds were all inflicted. That's the other thing. We just don't know. But I wouldn't advise a parent to see their child if the wounds affected anything above the shoulders and neck. There's no way I would want the parent to see that. And I would, you know.
When I seen my son, that's the hardest thing I ever seen in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
I felt him on my knees. They had to. It wasn't him.
No.
And I think that's the worst thing is that, you know your son for 18 years and then you look at him laying there and it's not him. It's just, it doesn't even look like him, you know?
No.
I'm sorry, Tommy. That's terrible.
I don't ever want to experience that again. I won't experience that again.
So I you know. That's one of the reasons.
So I feel for any of the, you know, and as far as believing in I believe in whatever the person wants, you know. They want to be cremated, that's fine, and it's just I don't like looking at that anymore at all. I was an altar boy. You know, it didn't bother me back when I was young.
But it wasn't your child either, so that changes everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's just unimaginable.
Right.
All right, on to something lighter than this. Who brought up this dead body topic? Cut it out.
Me. I'm sorry.
Right.
Technically speaking, this is on Tommy. So
listen, consider yourself chastised and moved on. That's all.
All I'm saying is, Pub Giant, I just need to clarify. We don't know that the parents didn't see the kids, right?
We don't know.
I've had that question. Like, did that?
Yeah, I wonder about that. And geez, that would have been awful if they did.
It's just weird the way Steve G, like he said some things, right? I sent my kid to college. She came home in a box.
Yeah, but that isn't an indication of anything than reality.
I mean, do you know that? I mean, that's how they delivered my brother.
Well,
literally to the front door.
I think
that sounds more like
either.
a pissed off Steve. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
said that.
not thinking at the moment
I mean, I know,
of
guys.
his
I'm
pain, you know. Yeah.
Well, let me just shut my gap. All I'm saying is I want to know. I want to hear from these parents. Like, did you
Why?
see? Because I don't know. Like, I feel like that's it's just it would be important to me.
Oh, yeah. See, we all view things differently. So I don't have any reason to suspect that they weren't given that access. I think it would be highly unlikely for them not to get that access, or if at least not access, then photographs, but not photographs of all the wounds. Like I'm saying, if from the neck up, if the children, or these were adults, but their children weren't assaulted in any way from the neck up, that would be then pictures would be fine. Or even even to look at the blanket down from her shoulders down, or his shoulders down. So I don't know.
Right.
It's been great. The whole case is insane, and everything they do is just their secrecy is the biggest bullshit thing I've ever seen.
It is
100. That's why I'm like. That's why I have these questions, right? Like,
and that's why I have a hard time answering the question of where do you feel like this is going to end up? Because to me, I look at this and just taking a step back from all the what ifs and how does this piece go to that piece, and it's like at the end of the day, no matter what the outcome, it's a tragedy to the families, it's a tragedy to everybody, but it's also a tragedy to the system that it ever got to the point to where there's so much doubt in the actual arrest and what may or may not be a conviction. And it's like you can't trust what's out there because it makes no sense, and it should have never happened.
Right.
You can't.
You know what's going to happen? They're going to end up missing.
Well, like I promise you, none of us on this panel could sit here and say it is not suspect that there's absolutely no footage. There was camera crews there, but we have no footage of them rolling out any gurneys. You know what I mean? But there is footage of them loading bloody mattresses into the back of a pickup truck.
No, didn't they encapsulate it with a tent to prevent people from seeing the bodies being put into emergency?
No, when they put the tent up.
No, not unless they loaded them onto a U-Haul.
Yeah, the tent that was put up the morning they arrested him, and that was when Ann Taylor stopped their cleanup of the crime scene.
It's almost like
nobody's seen them. Nobody.
No.
With all the mainstream media, nobody seen them load those bodies anywhere. So that is crazy. And maybe I should have kept talking to that lawyer, but I mean, come on. I mean, Jesus Christ, I've already gone through cougars.
But I think it'd be remiss. I don't think it's the kind of thing we should question whether they were there or not, or I think there's nothing to say that anything, like I'm saying, I don't think that this was a conspiracy or some plan plotted out chaos nightmare thing. I think most of the things we're seeing are just consistent mistakes and consistent behaviors, which I think is more than plausible because of the cases prior to this that this particular state was involved with, including their state police.
Right. But it's their this hush, quiet shit that is creating the likes of us all. And to keep this case going. To keep the case going, because if this would have been, let's say this happened and everything was normal with the case, we would have been long past this, and we would have been on other cases and bringing up updates and stuff like this.
Right.
But because of the secrecy, here we are.
Well, even in all fairness, and people may not like this, but in the Karen Reed case, I think her efforts should be more focused on showing it wasn't possible for her to have done this. Okay. And not continue to paint this picture that the people in the house did it. That her solving the crime, to me, is not it's not what you're normally supposed to do as a defendant. I think those questions should be brought up at trial. I think some of those, you need to get this stuff in, but I think what's more important to her is to show that that she couldn't have done it. That vehicle couldn't have moved at a rate of speed to have caused that kind of bodily injury to a healthy man. How did he get it? Well, that's not for me to explain. I don't know. How could she possibly know if she's not the one that did it with the truck? So for her to go after the people in the house and stuff, I get it. But again, that's still not really relevant for her to prove someone else did it. Right. The reasonable doubt is showing that you couldn't have possibly done that with that vehicle that night.
She might not be able to.
You got video of her backing into something and breaking her and breaking what appears to be a taillight. She backed into a parked car that same night.
I mean, you just said yourself, Sarge, there are no coincidences.
Right.
Well, sometimes there are coincidences. Let's be fair. Sometimes there are coincidences.
But how many in one case?
Right? Like you guys,
you know what I mean?
When it comes to Karen Reed, I'm like, you guys show up to a party to go in together. One of you leaves, the other one doesn't. And the same night you just happen to break your tail light. Like, I don't know how I am on that case. Like,
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Her argument needs to show that it isn't likely that she did it. And you know something? If she did do it, it wasn't intentional. And this now, let's not go down this road with her because it's going to lead me to Alex Baldwin. Because it does not need to.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Taking a life is a crime. Okay.
Right. I'm with you. Whether it was intentional or not, you did it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I mean. And if that's the law, and that's an example of the law being applied unfairly among citizens because of their social and financial status versus what the law is. The law is the law.
Right.
And I think that any time an exception is made in any way, shape, or form for anybody, especially if they're higher up the ladder than most, then the exception should never be applied to people. As a matter of fact, the opposite should happen because you're supposed to lead by example. You're a public figure. You don't have to be a politician, a judge, or you have to be involved in anything. Just a regular guy. It's a multimillionaire that does a hit and runs from the scene. Your punishment should be exactly the same as mine or Tommy's if we did that.
Well, I just I can't help but think about somebody sent me pictures and it was, I guess, something that Jennifer Coffindaffer posted on Twitter of the Savannah Soto and her boyfriend, like their wounds, right?
Right.
And I'm like, this literally just happened, and there's already photos floating around of these victims. You know what I mean?
And not here in the Koberger case, is that what you're saying? Right. Yeah. I know. And this is, the justice system isn't run equally for all, and it's not run equally court to court. And I think we can all reasonably agree with that. In some instances, it is. It's obvious. You're on video at Walmart walking out with a big panel TV, case closed. I mean, well, we videoed you pick it up. We videoed you walk right out the front door with it. You didn't stop at a cashier.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sarge. I thought you was done.
Yeah, unless you can show me you pre-bought that with a credit card and just came and picked it up, then you're guilty of stealing a TV. It's cut and dry. So there's a multitude of cases that go before the courts, folks, are just people doing stupid things. That's it, period. And it's easily to convict. And these people normally take plea deals. But when we get into serious crimes that require real work and in the justice system, the best thing about your real work is you should be able to show it. All your I's should be dotted, all your T's should be crossed, and every bit of information you have, good, bad, or indifferent, should be placed forward without any obstruction by you or any tantrum by you or any delay by you. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm in construction. Do you honestly think I put blindfolds on people when the work is done and say, "Can I have my check?"
and proofreading what you put out there first. We were on Dagos today, and he was talking about the Sarah Boone case, and was showing the PCA, and it literally in that PCA it just says on February 24th of 2020 at 11:32 p.m. or I think it was 8:20 p.m. she made the first recording of this guy in the suitcase, right? Then it goes on to say on February 24th of 2020 at 11 o'clock in the morning. Her phone was ringing because people were trying to get a hold of her. And I get it's a small mistake, right? It should have been the 23rd and the 24th, or the 24th and the 25th. But it's little things like that I look at, and I'm like, now a judge signed off on this. When you read this, there's no way that it's possible. And I get it's just a small clerical error, but it's where I get just irritated at the fact that a judge who is supposed to be an official signs their name on something that makes absolutely no damn sense. And it's just a simple thing that just bothers me so bad.
Cletus, that's what I mean by corruption.
I know that's what you mean by it, and that's what I'm getting at as well, right? As a judge, if you hand me a piece of paper to sign, I don't care. We got tags on a vehicle a couple of weeks ago, and it asked the question of, have you driven this vehicle on the road without registration? And I asked the lady, I'm like, how am I supposed to answer that? I drove it here. And she's like, well, that doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, then why ask the question that way?
Right.
You know, that it's that simple little bit of integrity, an issue with integrity, even in the way things are written. That's just crazy to me.
Well, and how the information is perceived by the person reading it, right?
Yeah.
Well, how about in the Coburg case where they call Queen Road King Road over and over again?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that shouldn't be allowed either. Specificity and accuracy is the most important thing that you're on your side when you're going to produce charges against somebody in our justice system. And to call that house King Road is a derelict, in my opinion. And I'm a guy that can't type without making 4 errors in one sentence. That's why you wouldn't have me write a document like that, right? That is not my forte.
Well, and I'm not faulting the whoever writes these things, right? Where I come into an issue is the judge is the one that's reading this. Whatever judge is signing off on it is the one reading it. He's the one putting his stamp on it, saying, "Yep, it makes sense."
He's exactly, yeah. He's the one that has to sign off on it,
right?
So,
and if there's an error, he should send it back and say, "Hey, fix this."
Yep.
Can I say though that most warrants aren't issued by a reading of the information by the court?
Well, and that's a problem.
Most warrants are approved by the presentation of the officer that signed it, and he sums up within the documents, and then the court will go and review them later if they feel the need to. Right? He swears under oath
there's that word again.
True, and
there's that word again, Sarge.
What word?
Presentation, and that's going to be a huge word when it comes to this case.
That's one of the things I found funny online is how, especially Twitter and stuff, people that disagree with you will not disagree on the merit of your argument. They'll pick apart your writing, your spelling, it's a passive aggressive. To me, it's a moronic passive aggressive behavior to avoid the topic. Right. So you attack the person, and instead of taking the merit of the conversation. So you've got how many different forms of the word to? 3 of them. Or when, and different words where you can use them. Your is a great one. Y-O-U''RE, Y-O-U-R.
Right.
You use that wrong word,
the English
version of it, and they attack that, and they don't. But your statement isn't misconstruable because in the scheme of the sentence or in the paragraph, your point is brought across, and they ignore that with that bullshit about spelling and punctuation, and people like that need a good slap. But apparently, none of them work in law enforcement. Maybe those people should get a job in law enforcement documentation. Right? These idiots online that want to spell check everybody.
Right. I hate that. I fucking absolutely hate that.
Yeah, it's a passive aggressive from a weasel. Weaselly people, I think, do that.
Right.
So I hate people that don't spell properly. Well,
and I'm old and my typing isn't good. And you know what? I'm not going to go back and keep going back and retype. Fuck that. If you don't know what the hell I'm saying,
ask Clue about the word irregardless.
Yeah, Clue.
Yeah, right.
I know. And you know what? People literally they eat my ass over that word. Y'all need to learn some dictionary. Get you a dictionary and go study it, because that is a word.
Yeah, I realize I think it's perfectly okay for us to have little quirks or things that annoy us. There's certain things that annoy me too, but they don't need to be brought up to a person you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And by doing so, you're trying to change the topic to belittle their intelligence is what's being done, rather than discuss the topic at hand. Yeah. Because I used to be big on Twitter, and that's the complaints that I got from people weren't your perspective is skewed and inaccurate, and this is why. It was
they
you
picked
use
on you,
your
right?
instead of YOU apostrophe
Yeah,
RE.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you just
man.
want to.
That's happened to me a million times.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
When do you use TOO instead of TO? I don't know. Listen, I don't even care. I use the number 2 just to avoid
it took
having to decide.
1/10 of a second quicker.
Yeah. And if spell check don't fix it, don't blame me.
Right.
It's spell check's fault.
All right, guys. I think I'm going to close her down here for the night.
Right.
This has been a really enjoyable night with you guys, man. And
I enjoyed coming up for sure.
Yeah, it's really good seeing you, Sarge. Man, I haven't seen you in quite a while.
I bounce around. I usually mess around with the Clue and the Cletus, who I happen to nickname Cletus, and people seem to have taken to it.
Oh, is that where it came from? Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm the creator of nicknames. Yeah,
I missed that one. Okay.
Yeah, Sarge's named me, so he's officially my daddy.
They happen to owe me everything they have. Because they made a bet about a certain DET, and they were completely wrong.
You need to stop lying on this live right now. They didn't do shit.
Well, Cletus mortgaged you away, and you just weren't aware of it. So I'm thinking your payment's going to have to be
the old mortgage trick. The old mortgage trick.
Then you can have his half. How about that?
I don't know. We discussed it. He's not married yet, so it's all his.
Yeah. Let's be careful because we want Cletus, alive tomorrow.
Yeah. Danger, Cletus. All right, well, it was good coming in. I appreciate you inviting me up. You're awesome, Tommy.
Yeah, you guys are awesome, man. Really awesome.
Okay,
Don't forget to sub up to Cluminati and subs. Make sure you put the links out there to anybody else that's out there too. And I want to thank my subs because they knew that tonight might not be good, but it from what I seen, and I was trying to keep as close as an eye as I could for me not being much of a chatter, and it looked like it went pretty good. So I appreciate all my crime family. You're the best. I love you. I think we got the same families, which is good.
Yeah.
And Cletus, if you're not busy, Cletus, bring me.
Okay.
What? I said, Cletus, I said if he's not busy, ring me.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. All right.
Not you, Tommy.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Yeah, you guys take care. And I'll say a couple of things about people here, and then I'll be out.
All right. Bye.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys much.
Yep. Thanks, Tommy.
Yep. You too, Cletus. Yep. See you guys.
Good night.
And to my crime family, I love you very much. You guys rock. And to my subs, thank you very much for sticking by me, and for all your hard work that you do. And my investigators, thank you. The producers, thank you. Until next time, in hell, I'll be in good company. Rock and roll.
Stage smells, tells, hells, bells, misspells, knocks me on my knees. It didn't hurt, flirt, blood, squirt, stuff, shirt like me on a tree. After I count down 3 rounds in hell, I'll be in good company. Knocks me on my knees. It didn't hurt, flirt, blood, squirt, stuff, shirt like me on a tree. After I count down 3 rounds in hell, I'll be in good company.